Emma Carter knew the bookstore was dying before the final notice arrived. She knew it in the way the front doorbell sounded quieter each morning, as if even the little brass chime had grown tired of hoping someone would walk in. She knew it in the empty chairs near the reading corner, in the untouched poetry shelf, in the brown stain spreading across the ceiling every time Boston rain found its way through the old roof. And she knew it in the envelope resting on the counter that Tuesday morning. Final payment demand. 30 days. That was all she had left. 30 days before Carter and Finch Books, the small independent bookstore her father had built with his own hands, became another glass-fronted luxury boutique for people who bought old neighborhoods and called it renewal. Emma stood alone behind the counter while rain blurred the windows and traffic hissed along Beacon Street outside. Her fingers rested on the envelope, but she did not open it. She already knew what it said. The heater rattled. A stack of used novels leaned dangerously near the register. Somewhere in the back room, a pipe dripped into a bucket with slow, insulting rhythm. 10 years. She had given 10 years of her life to this place. 10 years of skipping vacations, repairing shelves herself, fighting rent increases, hosting children's reading hours, selling rare books to pay tax bills, and pretending grief could become purpose if she worked hard enough. Her father had died behind that counter with an inventory list in one hand and a smile on his face, because a little girl had just bought her first copy of The Secret Garden. He used to say bookstores were not businesses, they were shelters. Emma had believed him. Now the shelter was about to be sold. At 9:07 a.m., 3 black cars pulled up outside. Not ordinary cars, long, dark, polished vehicles that looked wrong against the wet brick street and crooked bookstore awning. Emma looked through the front window. Men stepped out first. Dark suits, umbrellas, stillness. Then he appeared. A man in a black overcoat stepped from the middle car and lifted his eyes to the bookstore sign. Carter and Finch Books. He did not hurry. He did not look curious. He looked like a man arriving somewhere he had been searching for his whole life. Emma's hand tightened around the envelope. The door opened, the brass bell rang, and the entire bookstore seemed to hold its breath. The man stepped inside, bringing with him the scent of rain, cold air, and something expensive she could not name. He was tall, sharply dressed, with dark hair brushed back from a face too controlled to be handsome in any gentle way. His jaw was hard, his eyes were darker than the weather outside. He looked around the bookstore slowly, shelf by shelf, as if measuring ghosts. Emma forced herself to stand straighter. "Can I help you?" His gaze moved to her. It was not the way customers looked at her. Not polite, not distracted. It was focused, almost unsettling, like he had already known her face before walking in. "Emma Carter," he said. Her stomach tightened. "Yes?" He removed his gloves carefully. "My name is Adrian Moretti." The name meant nothing at first. Then it did. Moretti Holdings, Moretti Hotels, Moretti Shipping, Moretti Gallery Foundation. Half of Boston had buildings with that name attached to them, though no one ever seemed to know exactly where the money came from. Newspapers called him a billionaire investor. Politicians called him a philanthropist. Whispers called him something else. Dangerous. Intouchable. Mafia. Emma folded her arms. "If you're here about buying the building, you can leave." Something almost like surprise flickered in his eyes. "I already bought it." The words landed softly. "Destroyed everything." Emma stared at him. "What?" "The building. The attached warehouse. The apartments above. The entire block." The bookstore tilted around her. "No." "Yes. That's impossible." "It was signed at 2:14 this morning." Her throat closed. She looked past him to the men waiting outside beneath umbrellas, then back to his unreadable face. "You bought my bookstore overnight?" "I bought the property. It's my bookstore." His eyes held hers. "Yes." That single word was not agreement. It was something else. Recognition. Emma grabbed the envelope from the counter and stepped around it. "Then tell me what you want. How long do I have before you turn it into condos? A wine bar? Some fake vintage coffee place with $6 muffins?" Adrian looked toward the back of the store. A muscle shifted in his jaw. The bookstore stays exactly as it is. Emma blinked. What? No renovations without your approval? No rent increase? No eviction? No interference in daily operations? She stared at him. That sounds like interference. His gaze returned to her. You were going to close in 30 days. Her chest tightened. How do you know that? I know everything I buy. I'm not something you bought. The temperature in the room changed. One of the men near the door looked up sharply. Adrian did not. He only watched Emma. And for the first time, she saw something beneath the cold surface. Interest. Not amusement. Not softness. Something more dangerous. No, he said quietly. You're not. He placed a black envelope on the counter. Inside was a document. The first line made Emma's hand tremble. Carter and Finch Books shall remain under the complete operational control of Emma Carter for as long as she chooses to operate it. Beneath that was a number, enough money to clear every debt, enough to repair the roof, enough to keep the store alive for years. Emma looked up. Why? Adrian's expression closed. Because the bookstore matters. To who? His eyes moved once more to the shelves. To someone who is gone. Before she could ask anything else, he put his gloves back on. I'll return tomorrow. I didn't agree to anything. He paused at the door. You don't have to. Then why come here? For a long moment, Adrian stood with his hand on the doorframe, rain shining beyond him. When he turned, his face looked carved from shadow. Because your father kept something that belonged to my mother. Then he walked out. The next morning, the roof was fixed. Emma arrived at 7:15 with wet hair, a paper cup of coffee, and a plan to pretend none of it had happened. Workers were already leaving. The leak was gone. The cracked front step had been repaired. The broken lamp over the poetry section glowed warmly for the first time in 3 years. On the counter sat a receipt, paid in full. No signature. Emma called the number on the invoice. The contractor sounded nervous when she asked who had paid. Private account, ma'am. What private account? I'm not authorized to say. She hung up and stared at the ceiling. Unbelievable. By noon, boxes arrived. Rare first editions. Jane Austen, Dickens, Wharton, assigned Baldwin. Books Emma had once dreamed of selling, but could never afford to stock. Each box came with a card. For the store, no name. By closing time, Emma was furious. Not grateful, furious. Generosity was not always kindness. Sometimes it was control dressed in expensive paper. At 8:03 p.m., Adrian Moretti returned. No entourage this time, just him. Black coat, dark eyes, silence that made the room feel smaller. Emma was waiting with the stack of receipts. You don't get to do this. His gaze dropped to the papers. The roof was leaking. I had a bucket. The floor was rotting under the children's section. I was handling it. You were drowning. And you decided to buy the ocean? A slight pause. If Adrian smiled, it did not reach his mouth. I'm not used to being accused for solving problems. That must be difficult for you. His eyes sharpened. Emma realized she was speaking to a man people probably lowered their voices around. She raised hers anyway. This place is not a museum for your guilt. It's not a tax shelter. It's not a toy. It's my father's life. At that, his face changed. Not much. Enough. I know. No, you don't. His voice lowered. Your father kept the store open on Sundays during snowstorms because he said lonely people needed somewhere to go. He shelved mysteries alphabetically, but poetry by emotion. He kept a spare coat behind the counter for a homeless veteran named Arthur. He refused to sell the West Wall cabinet even when a collector offered him $30,000. Emma went cold. How do you know that? Adrian looked toward the west wall. The cabinet stood there, old, dark, locked since her father's death. I told you, he said. He kept something that belonged to my mother. Emma moved instinctively between him and the cabinet. No, you don't know what I'm asking for. I know you bought my building at 2 a.m. and started reciting my father's habits like you knew him. I did know him. That took the breath from her. My father never mentioned you. He wouldn't have. Why? Adrian stepped closer, not too close, enough that she felt the force of him. because knowing me was dangerous. The bell above the door rang. Both turned. A man entered wearing a grey wool coat, rain dripping from the brim of his hat. He looked ordinary, perhaps in his 50s, with kind eyes and a bookstore smile. But Adrian's body changed, subtle, instant. His hand lowered toward the inside of his coat. The man looked at Emma. "Are you still open?" Emma swallowed. "We're closing." His eyes moved past her to Adrian, then to the west wall cabinet. Adrian spoke first. "No." The man smiled. "Beautiful store." Then he left. The door closed. Emma turned on Adrian. "Who was that?" Adrian was already at the window, watching the man disappear into the rain. Trouble. That night, Emma locked the store and found a black SUV waiting outside. Adrian stood beside it. "I'll drive you home." "No, Emma." The way he said her name made it sound like a warning and a plea. "I have walked home alone for 10 years. Not tonight." "Because of the man?" "Yes." "Tell me who he is." "No." "Then I'm walking." She stepped around him. Adrian caught her wrist. Gently, but the contact burned. Emma looked down at his hand, then up at him. His fingers released immediately. "I'm sorry," he said. That surprised her more than his touch. A man like Adrian Moretti did not look like he apologized often. "If you want me to trust you," she said, "stop giving orders and start giving answers." He looked at her for a long moment, rain tracing the edge of his jaw. "My mother disappeared from this bookstore 25 years ago." Emma forgot the cold. "What?" "She came here with evidence against Vincent Bellini. She trusted your father. She hid something before Bellini's men arrived." "Bellini? The developer?" "Bellini the murderer." Emma stared at him. Vincent Bellini owned half the construction projects in Boston. He gave speeches about community renewal. His face was on hospital charity posters and university donor plaques. Adrian watched the recognition form. "My mother never left this block alive." The street seemed suddenly darker. "My father knew?" He tried to help her. Emma looked back at the glowing bookstore. Every shelf, every floorboard, every quiet corner changed shape in her mind. "My father died of a heart attack." Adrian said nothing. The silence was enough. "No," she whispered. His voice was quiet. "I don't know for certain." "You think Bellini killed him?" "I think your father died before he could tell me where my mother hid the evidence." Emma stepped back. The rain felt colder. "And now you think I know?" "No." "Then why me?" Adrian's face hardened, as if the answer cost him something. "Because Bellini thinks you do." The first attack came 3 days later, not with bullets, with fire. Emma woke at 2:31 a.m. to her phone, screaming, "Security alert, Carter and Finch Books." She ran barefoot to the window and saw smoke rising 3 streets away. By the time she reached the bookstore, flames licked the back alley. Adrian was already there. No coat, white shirt, soaked from rain. Men shouted around him while firefighters struggled with the side door. Emma tried to run toward the store. Adrian caught her around the waist and pulled her back. "My books!" she screamed. "Emma." "No. My father's books. The building can be replaced." She turned on him, wild with grief. "You don't get to say that." Then the side window exploded outward. Adrian turned his body, shielding her from the blast. Glass cut across his shoulder. He did not flinch. Emma felt the impact of his body around hers more than the explosion. Protective, possessive, terrifying. For a moment, she was pressed against him, heart hammering, breathing smoke and rain and him. His voice was near her ear. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. He pulled back just enough to look at her face. Not the building, not the men, her. And Emma realized something with a fear that had nothing to do with fire. Adrian Moretti was a man who could lose millions without blinking. But the thought of her bleeding had cracked him. The fire did not destroy the bookstore. Only the back room burned. The west wall cabinet survived. Barely. Emma stood before it the next morning, wrapped in Adrian's coat, because he had put it around her and she had been too exhausted to argue. The cabinet was blackened, but standing. Adrian's shoulder was bandaged beneath his shirt. She noticed the blood before he did. "You need stitches. I've had worse." "That isn't comforting." "It wasn't meant to be." She looked at him. "You say that a lot." "What?" "Things that aren't comforting." A flicker, almost a smile, then gone. Emma turned back to the cabinet. "My father never gave me the key." Adrian reached into his pocket. Her eyes widened. "You have it? Your father gave it to me when I was 19. And you waited until now?" "I promised not to open it unless Bellini moved against you." Emma stared at him. "So this was never about the bookstore?" "It was always about the bookstore," he said. "And you." The words hung between them. Too intimate, too soon, too dangerous. He unlocked the cabinet. Inside were old ledgers, letters, and a velvet-wrapped book, a first edition of Jane Eyre. Emma knew it instantly. Her father's favorite book, the one he never allowed anyone to touch. Her throat tightened. Adrian lifted it carefully. Inside the cover was a handwritten note. "My dearest Adrian, if you are reading this, then I failed to come home. Your father will tell you I abandoned you. He will be lying. Trust Thomas Carter. Trust the girl who inherits his courage. And remember, some prisons look like empires. Your mother, Lucia." Adrian went still. Emma read the letter again. "Lucia, my mother, Thomas Carter, was my father." "Yes." Her voice softened despite herself. "She knew about me?" Adrian looked at the last line. "Trust the girl who inherits his courage." "She believed you would matter." His control was perfect. Too perfect. Emma saw the fracture beneath it. "You thought she left you?" His jaw tightened. "My father said she chose Bellini over us." "And you believed him?" "I was 9. That pierced her anger. For 1 second, Adrian Moretti was not a billionaire. Not a dangerous man. Not a shadow everyone feared. He was a boy who had waited for a mother who never came home. Emma reached toward him without thinking. He stepped back. "No." The word was quiet, sharp, not rejection, fear. She lowered her hand. "Adrian, don't look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like you found something wounded." The bookstore door opened behind them. A woman's voice spoke from the entrance. "Because wounded things still bite." Adrian turned. Mara. The woman who entered wore a navy coat, silver hair pinned neatly, and eyes that seemed to see the whole room at once. Mara Moretti, Adrian's aunt, and, as Emma would later learn, the only person in Boston who could disagree with him and remain alive. Mara looked at Emma. "You look exactly like your father when angry." Emma blinked. "You knew him?" "We all did." Adrian's expression closed. "Mara." She ignored him. "Thomas Carter saved more lives than the city will ever know." "And lost his own," Emma said. Mara nodded once. "Yes." The evidence inside Jane Eyre was incomplete. A list of offshore accounts, names, a partial map, a photograph of Lucia Moretti standing outside the bookstore with Emma's father, and a second photograph that made Adrian's face turn to stone. Vincent Bellini, younger, smiling, his hand resting possessively on Lucia's shoulder. On the back, in Lucia's handwriting, were 3 words. "He owns everyone." Mara studied the pages. "This is enough to make Bellini nervous. Not enough to destroy him." "Then where's the rest?" Emma asked. Adrian looked at the burned back room, still inside the store. Over the next week, Carter and Finch became both bookstore and battlefield. During the day, Emma opened the doors. She refused to close. Children still came for story hour. Students still browsed used paperbacks. Old women still asked for mystery novels. The bell still rang, but now there were men outside. Adrian's men, discreet but not invisible, and Adrian himself came every night after closing. He searched shelves with the patience of a man hunting a ghost. Emma should have hated him being there. Sometimes she did, but then he would find a water-stained children's book and handle it with startling care, or repair a loose shelf without mentioning it, or stand by the window when a customer became too interested in Emma's schedule. Every silent act unsettled her. "You know," she said one night, watching him examine the west wall. "You could ask before deciding to guard my door." "I could, but you won't." "No." "Why?" He did not look at her. "Because if danger comes, permission won't matter. That is not romantic." His eyes finally moved to hers. "I'm not romantic." "No." "You're controlling." "Yes. At least you're honest. Only when lying would waste time." She shook her head. "You're impossible. You've said that before. You keep proving it." He stepped closer, holding a book between them. "Your father wrote notes in the margins." Emma's anger faltered. "He did that." Adrian opened the book. In the margin, Thomas Carter had written, "Some men build walls because they fear what love can take from them." Emma looked up. Adrian was watching her. "Did you choose that page on purpose?" "No." "Liar." His mouth curved faintly. It vanished, but not before she saw it. That smile changed the room. The air became too quiet, too intimate. Emma became painfully aware of the soft lamp glow, the rain tapping the windows, the scent of old paper, and the way Adrian stood close enough that she could see the small scar near his mouth. He lifted a hand toward a strand of hair near her cheek, stopped. His fingers curled into his palm. Emma whispered, "Why do you always stop?" His eyes darkened. "Because if I touch you, I won't be doing it for the promise." Her breath caught. Before she could answer, the front window shattered. A brick crashed through the display. Attached to it was a note. "Give us the book, Miss Carter, or we burn the girl with the store." Adrian read it once. Something in him went silent. The next 24 hours transformed Adrian. He became colder, harder. The few glimpses Emma had seen of the wounded boy vanished behind the dangerous man. His men doubled. The bookstore was watched from rooftops. Mara moved evidence to an underground safe room beneath a Moretti hotel. Emma was ordered to stay in Adrian's penthouse. She refused. He did not raise his voice. That made it worse. "You will stay where I can protect you." Emma stood in the center of his penthouse living room, high above the rain-soaked Boston skyline, surrounded by glass, steel, and wealth, so quiet it felt lonely. "You do not get to relocate my life because someone threatens me. They threaten to burn you alive. And you think locking me in a luxury tower fixes that?" His eyes sharpened. "It keeps you breathing. It makes me disappear." The words struck him. She saw it. Adrian turned away toward the windows. Below them, the city glittered coldly. "My mother disappeared because people who loved her hesitated." Emma's anger softened against her will. "And you're afraid if you hesitate with me?" He did not answer. He didn't need to. She walked closer. "Adrian." "No. You don't even know what I'm going to say." "Yes, I do." "What?" "That you're not my mother." Emma stopped. His reflection in the glass looked haunted. He continued, voice low, "That you don't need saving. That I can't control every outcome. That fear isn't love. Mara has said it. My mother wrote it. Your father probably believed it." He turned. "But none of them had to stand there and watch you bleed." "I'm not bleeding." "Not yet." The room went silent. Emma understood then. His obsession was not possession alone. It was terror disciplined into habit. He had loved through absence for so long that closeness felt like danger. She stepped nearer. This time, when he reached for her, he stopped again. But Emma did not. She placed her hand over his. His entire body went still. "You're shaking," she whispered. "I'm angry." "No," she said. "You're scared." Adrian's eyes held hers. The city burned, with lights behind him. "I don't know what to do with that." She squeezed his hand. "Then don't do anything." For the first time, he obeyed. The betrayal came from someone Emma trusted. Arthur, the homeless veteran her father had helped years ago. He had always sat near the alley behind the bookstore. Emma brought him coffee. Her father had given him coats. He knew the store better than most employees. So, when Arthur asked her to meet him behind the shop at dawn because he had remembered something about the night Lucia disappeared, Emma went. Alone. She knew it was a mistake the second she saw his face. Not cruel. Broken. "I'm sorry, Emma," he whispered. Men stepped from the alley shadows. Emma ran. One caught her before she reached the street. A black van door opened, and then the alley filled with headlights. Adrian's SUV slammed into the van hard enough to crush metal. Men scattered. Adrian stepped out into the rain. No umbrella. No coat. Just black suit, white shirt, and the kind of rage that made even armed men hesitate. Let her go. The man holding Emma pressed a knife near her throat. Adrian stopped. His eyes moved to the blade, then to Emma. All the rage vanished. Fear replaced it, pure and devastating. Adrian, Emma whispered. The man laughed. She must be very special. Adrian's voice was calm enough to be terrifying. She is. The man tightened his grip. Then I own you now. Adrian looked at him like he had already become a memory. No, he said. You just made yourself necessary to kill. Emma moved first. She drove her heel down, twisted, and dropped the way Adrian had taught her 2 nights earlier. Adrian crossed the alley before anyone else could move. It was over in seconds. When he reached Emma, he did not touch her at first. His hands hovered near her shoulders. Permission. The sight nearly broke her. She stepped into him. He pulled her against his chest, one hand at the back of her head, the other around her waist. His breath was uneven. Don't ever do that again. Trust someone? Leave without me. She pulled back enough to look at him. You don't get to make fear sound like love. His jaw tightened. I know. Do you? Yes. His voice was rough, because when I saw that knife, I understood something. What? That if keeping you safe means owning you, then I become another man you need protection from. Emma's eyes filled. It was the first time Adrian had named the monster inside his love, and hated it. Arthur survived. Barely. Bellini had threatened his daughter. The story was always the same. People did not serve Bellini because they admired him. They served him because he knew what they loved. Arthur's information, however, was real. On the night Lucia disappeared, she had not hidden everything inside the Jane Eyre first edition. She had split the evidence into 2 parts. The first was in the book. The second was inside the bookstore itself, not behind a shelf, not under the floor, inside the sign, Carter and Finch Books. Emma stared up at the old wooden sign in the rain, while Adrian's men closed the street around them. My father built that sign. Adrian stood beside her. My mother knew no one would look above eye level. They removed it at midnight. Inside the hollow frame was a metal tube sealed with wax. Lucia's final recording was inside. Her voice played through the bookstore speakers, soft with static, alive after 25 years. My name is Lucia Moretti. If this recording is found, Vincent Bellini killed me. The bookstore went utterly silent. Lucia named judges, police chiefs, developers, shipping routes, shell companies, murder contracts, and finally, she named Adrian's father as the man who sold her to Bellini. Adrian stood motionless. Emma turned to him. His face had gone pale beneath the control. Your father? He died, believing I knew nothing, Adrian said. His voice sounded empty. Mara touched his arm. He deserved worse. Adrian looked at the old sign, then the bookstore, then Emma. My whole life, he said quietly, I thought power would make me untouchable. Emma stepped closer. And did it? His eyes met hers. No. The final confrontation happened at Bellini's waterfront gala, not because Emma wanted drama, because Bellini understood image, and Adrian understood war. Bellini's latest development was being unveiled that night. Luxury towers, replacing half of Emma's neighborhood, including what would have been Carter and Finch if Adrian had not bought it first. Cameras were everywhere. Politicians, investors, journalists. Adrian arrived in black. Emma arrived beside him in deep green, wearing her father's old bookstore key on a chain around her neck. The room turned when they entered. Whispers moved like smoke. Bellini approached with a smile. Mr. Moretti, Miss Carter, how touching. The billionaire and the bookseller. Emma felt Adrian's hand near her lower back. Not touching. Ready? She stepped forward without him. My father said men like you depend on people being too afraid to read the fine print. Bellini's smile thinned. Emma lifted a small remote. Screens around the ballroom changed. Lucia Moretti's face appeared, then records, names, payments, bodies hidden inside real estate deals. A neighborhood built on graves. Gasps spread through the room. Reporters surged forward. Bellini's empire began collapsing in real time. He reached for Emma. Adrian moved, fast, not with a gun. With his body, he placed himself between them, caught Bellini's wrist, and twisted until the older man dropped the small blade hidden in his sleeve. The cameras caught everything. Bellini exposed. Adrian shielding Emma. Emma standing unbroken. Police moved in. Bellini looked at Adrian with hatred. "You think this makes you better than me?" Adrian's eyes were cold. "No." He glanced back at Emma. "But she does." That was the moment Emma knew. He had not become soft. He had become willing to change. Weeks later, Carter and Finch Books reopened. Not renovated into something unrecognizable, restored. The roof repaired. The old sign cleaned and rehung. The children's corner expanded. The west wall cabinet left exactly where it had always been. A small plaque was added near the register for Thomas Carter and Lucia Moretti, who believed truth could survive in books. Emma stood alone after closing, running her fingers over the polished counter. The bell rang. Adrian entered. No men behind him, no orders, just him. A black coat, dusted with snow, a wrapped book in his hands. "I brought something back," he said. Emma looked at the book. Jane Eyre, the first edition. "You kept it? It belongs here." He placed it on the counter. Inside was a new note, not hidden, not coded, written in Adrian's hand. Emma read it silently. "I came here looking for the past. I found a woman who refused to let me live there." She looked up. Adrian stood very still. Like even now, he expected love to be taken from him if he moved too quickly. "I transferred the deed," he said. Emma blinked. "What?" "The building, the block, the apartments, all of it." Her heart jumped. "Adrian, it's yours. You can't just give me half a street." "I can. That's not the point." His mouth softened. "No. The point is that I bought your bookstore because I was looking for my mother. I kept it because I was afraid Bellini would take it, but it was never mine." Emma swallowed. "And now? Now I'm asking if I may come in when the lights are on." The words were simple, but she understood what they cost him. No more shadows, no more ownership disguised as protection, no more buying walls because he feared losing what lived inside them. Emma walked around the counter. Snow fell softly beyond the window, turning Beacon Street quiet and silver. "You may," she whispered. Adrian's eyes lowered to her mouth. Stopped. Still asking, Emma smiled. "For a man who bought an entire block overnight, you're very cautious now." His voice dropped. "With you, I'm learning." She stepped closer, close enough for warmth, close enough for choice. "Good." When he kissed her, it was not possession. It was surrender. Outside, Boston moved around them, unaware that one little bookstore had brought down an empire, returned a son to his mother's truth, and taught a dangerous man that devotion without freedom was only another kind of prison. Inside, under warm golden lamps and rows of old books, Emma Carter finally understood why her father had loved the store so much. Not because stories kept people safe from darkness, but because sometimes, if they survived long enough, they led people home.